Us everything. A shocking upset in the swamp, a wild border war finish, and Oklahoma planting a flag at home against Michigan. We're going to talk about all that, plus our power rankings. It's great to be in the SEC. Welcome back to the SEC Recap Podcast, the Week 2 reaction and power rankings episode. Alex Golesh and his USF Bulls pull off a shocker in the swamp. Florida fans not happy. The border war is back. Mizzou gets one at home over Kansas, and Oklahoma takes down Michigan in Norman. Now, remember, these power rankings are not just another poll, and they're not my opinion. We use some advanced stats, strength of record, on-field performance, not just logo bias. And that's going to reshuffle the board a little bit every week. So before we dive into all 16 teams from 16 to 1, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you never miss these weekly breakdowns. We'll be back later in the week with the Week 3 predictions episode, some big matchups coming there. Let's jump right into it, talk about the rankings. So on here, you're going to see the ranking plus the composite score that is from my model. So if you're not watching this on YouTube, if you're just listening in audio form, God bless you. Thank you for however you choose to chug this podcast. But I would encourage you to head on over to YouTube or Spotify, where you can check out the visuals and the graphics here on screen. All right. So it was a night to forget in the swamp as Florida suffers a shocking 18-16 home loss to USF on a walk-off field goal. The Gators offense found some rhythm, but just never felt like it clicked. While USF quarterback Byron Brown just kind of continually tormented Florida's defense. 263 yards passing, 66 yards rushing. And I think what stings the most is how it unfolded. The Gators claw back to take a late lead. Fans are on their feet. Felt like they were going to survive and come away with this one. But instead, Brown kept extending drives with his legs, chipping away at the defense so the Bulls lined up for the dagger field goal. Grammatica's kick split the uprights as time expired, and the swamp went silent. For Florida, this wasn't just a loss, it was a gut punch that raises real questions about whether Billy Napier can get this team to finish games. So Florida comes in at number 16 in my rankings this week. At 15, Kentucky Wildcats. Kentucky jumped out to a 10-0 first quarter lead off of 2 early interceptions by defensive back Ty Bryant. But the Wildcats could not sustain and fell 30-23 at home to top 20 Ole Miss. Bryant, though, tallied 10 tackles, 2 picks in that stellar effort. And Seth McGowan provided the offense with 88 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in the loss, I believe. So it's not all bleak for Kentucky, but as we're kind of used to seeing, that offense just does not have the explosive power. Their strength really lies in slowing it down, muddying it up for the other team. And Ole Miss just able to play that game better on the road. Number 14. Now, Bulldogs fans not going to like this, but again, this is not my opinion. This is the numbers in the model. Mississippi State gets a fantastic win at home versus Arizona State. And if you watched my Week 2 preview episode, I said that this is one that State could get, and I was actually kind of pulling for them to get this upset. 24-20 upset of number 12 Arizona State in Starkville, shaping through touchdown passes of, I think, like 40-plus yards, like 48 yards. And then with 30 seconds remaining, hit Brennan Thompson for a 58-yard bomb to seal the win. That clutch deep strike completed a fourth quarter comeback, sent the home crowd into a cowbell clanging frenzy. Bulldogs get probably what is their biggest win in years. I mean, I would struggle to think of a bigger win at home in Starkville, non-conference ranked opponent. Everybody wants a win over the SEC team. The Bulldogs did not give that one up. So I'm pretty high on Mississippi State following that win. However, got to go with what the model thinks. Model has them 14. That's how they would stack up in the SEC. Coming in at 13, the Arkansas Razorbacks dominated long-awaited in-state clash. They ran past Arkansas State 56-14 in Little Rock. Taylon Green continues to impress. He put on an absolute show, passing for 269, 4 touchdowns, rushing for 151 and a touchdown. They exploded for 28 points in the first quarter alone and averaged really an astounding 11.1 yards per carry. By the end of the game, Arkansas had over 500 yards of offense, and that defense tallied 4 sacks and 10 tackles for loss. A one-sided victory there in Little Rock. But it still remains to be seen how the Razorbacks are going to fare when they get into SEC play. I'm intrigued to know myself. At number 12, South Carolina, the Gamecocks. They improved to 2-0 after a 38-10 win over in-state FCS foe, South Carolina State. Gamecocks got a huge boost from Swain, who returned, 2 punts for touchdowns? Let me double check my stat line here. Kick return. Yeah, Bakari Swain, 2 punt returns, 2 touchdowns. So really, really good on special teams as you kind of come to expect from the Gamecocks. Jump starts an offense that was really sluggish early. South Carolina State had an early 3-0 lead. Of course, you kind of knew that South Carolina would come back from that. But their defense did the rest. They hold SC State to 10 points, and they cruised in the second half. So Gamecocks at number 12. At the 11 spot, Texas A&M Aggies. They didn't have much trouble. 22-point victory at home in College Station over Utah State, 44-22, their final score, behind a 554-yard offensive explosion. Marcel Reed accounted for 4 touchdowns, I think. I don't have all this pulled up at the same time. 3 touchdowns. No. Did he run for 1? Yeah, he ran for 1. So 3 through the air and 1 on the ground, 10 for 66 rushing. Marcel Reed was at 19 of 28 for 220. So really solid there. Aggies defense also getting 6 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, dominating the trenches for the second straight week. But still allowing 22 points. So again, I said this last week, they need to kind of work on preventing the explosives. They allowed 172 through the air. They gave up 6 for 87 to Brady Boyd. He was most of Utah State's receiving production. Gahanu Davis had 1 for like a long one for 36. Pegan had 2 for 23 and a touchdown. Miles Davis, 3 for 9 and 2 touchdowns. So kind of giving it up through the air there a little bit. A&M needs to tighten that up moving into SEC play. Let's come into the top 10. By the way, I see a couple people tuning in live on this Sunday morning. Thank you very much. We're recapping it early here on the SEC Recap, just trying to get the content out there. Oklahoma Sooners, they deliver a statement win. Now, again, it's a top 20 win. Why are they sitting at number 10 in the power rankings? Because it's not SEC play, okay? This model is factoring in the strength of all the teams, how they would stack in the SEC. My model, following that game, a little lower on Michigan than I would have anticipated, right? So it's a good win. It is a top 15 win. 24-13 under the lights in Norman. Dual threat quarterback John Mateer runs for 2 touchdown passes for another. I think he accounted for all 3 of the Sooners' TDs, 270 yards and 74 on the ground, continually frustrating the Michigan defense. Oklahoma outgains Michigan 408 to 288 in total yardage, and the Sooner defense just kind of swarmed all night, forcing 2 turnovers, shutting out Michigan in 3 of those quarters. Now, the atmosphere in Norman was electric. It was a true primetime showdown that felt like playoff stakes in week 2. Michigan's defense just had no answer for Mateer and his improvisation. Every time they bottled him up, he'd just slip out and make a play. Always had his eyes downfield. The Wolverines leaned heavily on Justice Haynes to keep them in it, but Bryce Underwood just really never found rhythm against OU's front. When Mateer punched in that second rushing TD late, I think the crowd knew that it was over. This wasn't just a win. It was a we belong moment for the Sooners in this new SEC era. So I think they found some magic there, especially with John Mateer. Really, really interested to see what happens to them when they get into conference play. Now, moving up quite a bit after the flop in week 1 is the Alabama Crimson Tide. They're sitting at number 9. And I said last week, I expect them to finish out like probably in the top third of the SEC because there's still a lot of football to be played, y'all. A lot of football to be played. Week 1 overreactions were abundant, but you knew Alabama was going to fix some things. Yes, it was ULM, but they bounced back emphatically from that week 1 humiliation. They annihilate UL Monroe 73 to nothing in a confidence-boosting rout. The Tide offense basically did whatever they want. Ty Simpson accounted for like 7 touchdowns or something. They were up 42-0 by half, finished with over 600 yards of offense, while the defense pitched a shutout. Now, let's see. Who do they have next week? Oh, Wisconsin. So Wisconsin is coming to Tuscaloosa. Alabama went on the road and handled them last year. However, it is a Big Ten opponent, so you do give it a little bit more weight. Let's see if the momentum continues into week 3 and that Wisconsin game. At number 8, man, the model really liked Vanderbilt following week 2. They are 2-0 and turning some heads after a 44-20 road thumping of Virginia Tech, a team that, South Carolina beat last week, but struggled a little bit more with. And Vandy does this on the road. They were down, I think, 10-0 early, but they shut out the Hokies in the second half. Or maybe it didn't shut them down. What was the box score? Oh, no, they did. It was 20-10. Yeah, 20-10. It wasn't 10-0. So it was 20-0 at the end of the first half, and then Vandy shuts out Vatek in the second half. So really, really impressive there. 34 unanswered points. Diego Pavia just continually sparking that offense. What did he have? 193, 2 touchdowns. Young, 8 carries for 95 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Defense forced 2 turnovers, stifled Tech, just the come from behind power 4 win, and just some unexpected early momentum there for the Commodores as they will look to host. No, they go to South Carolina. So this is going to be one of our SEC games in week 3. Vanderbilt at South Carolina. That could be a really good one. Could be a really good one. At number 7, the LSU Tigers. The defense dominating again. A grinded out, though, victory, 23-7 over La Tech. They held La Tech to just 154 yards and only 7 points all night, but relying on that physical play up front. Nussmeier, 237 and a touchdown to kind of manage the game. And then I think, didn't they have another quarterback come in? No. Okay, so Nussmeier played, at least passing stats, played the full game. I thought maybe they had a backup come in at some point, but Durham. No. 13 of 29 and a touchdown. Okay. My bad. Sorry. So it wasn't flashy, long story short, but really it's LSU's defense. It's kind of that story, just, keeping them like really physical up front, playing really solid, just not giving up a whole lot. They only allowed 58 on the ground, 96 through the air. So that's a really solid team. I personally am a little higher on LSU than where my model has them. I would have them like top 2 at least. I'm sure a lot of people have them number 1 overall. But again, this model is looking at some different things. It's, I'm not going to go into the nuts and bolts of it. That's for a different episode and different people. Most people don't care about the underlying math of the models. They just want to know who's going to win and what the score is going to be. But I'm very high on LSU. I think they're probably the front runner for the SEC title. All right, at number 6, the Mizzou Tigers bringing back the border war, and they get it over Kansas. They rallied 3 times in this game. This is the first border war in over a decade, so I think they overcame a deficit of like 21-6 at some point, and then 31-28 on the way to ultimately winning 42-31. Bo Perbula just fueled that comeback. 334 yards passing, 3 touchdown throws. Couple of scoring strikes to the tight end on the ground. Their running back was able to ice the game with a 63-yard, I think, touchdown sprint. Let me find the stat line again. Jamal Roberts, dude, 13 for 143 and a touchdown. Maud Hardy, 21 for 112 and a touchdown. Like, the running backs were just going off in this game. And then Bo Perbula through the air, sitting Coleman Jr. for 126 and a touchdown. Norfleet had 2 of those touchdowns. He was the tight end, I think, 7 for 76 and 2 touchdowns. So gave up a little bit through the air to Kansas. Jalen Daniels had 223, an interception on that. But 223 receiving. So Missouri giving up a little bit through the air, but the Tigers run game, just really, really good. This was old school border war energy, packed house, tense first half, swings and momentum, like everything that you could have wanted in bringing this rivalry game back. And it looked like Kansas was going to spoil the party for Mizzou. But man, every time Perbula had the answer, his connection with Norfleet was lethal, especially on third down when Roberts broke free for the 63-yard score. Field was absolutely electric. For Mizzou, it's not just a rivalry win. I think it's a statement that they've got the balance and the grit to hang with anyone in the SEC. So my model really, really likes Mizzou coming off of week 2. Weird one here. At number 5, Georgia Bulldogs. They took care of business, I guess, against Austin Peay, but that's an FCS opponent. I know there were a few delays in that game, which were really kind of disrupting the momentum and the flow. 28-6 is not what you expect at home over an FCS opponent. The offense was just really slow. 7-6 after a quarter, but the defense really never broke. They gave up just 2 field goals. That's kind of what you want to see. A bend don't break. Georgia's depth, as you would expect, eventually wore down the Governors. Running backs kind of did what they had to do in this game. Let me go find the stat line here. So Nate Frazier, 14 for 69 and 2 touchdowns. Bowens, 11 for 56 and 2 touchdowns. They total 190 on the ground and 231 through the air, but no passing touchdowns. So it was really the ground game. Gunnar Stockton, not bad. Just the QBR this week was low because he doesn't have the passing touchdown. So Bulldogs remain unbeaten, but they go to Knoxville this week against a Tennessee offense that's looking very, very good and a defense that can, I think, hold their own against anybody in the SEC. So you hope for maybe a little bit sharper performance if you're Georgia as you go to face a really, really good Tennessee team with a lot of confidence and a lot of momentum. Oh, by the way, in a Neyland Stadium that is going to be absolutely ripping with energy this week. So stay tuned. I got some really good stuff on that matchup that we'll put out later in this week for our week 3 preview. Powering ahead, man, the model high on Auburn. I am not this high on Auburn. Model really likes Auburn. Very strong start. They overwhelmed Ball State 42-3 on the Plains. Jackson Arnold really, really good. 251 passing. Tigers put up 271 yards through the air and 224 on the ground. Very, very balanced. Much more balanced, I think, than they were against Baylor. That's what you wanted to see if you were Auburn. The defense, very stout. 2 turnovers, holding Ball State to just a field goal. Now, it's Ball State, but they got a win against Baylor on the road. They will get South Alabama. Not worried about that one. So they got some time to get things right. What do they get in week 4? Oh, they go to Oklahoma. So there you go. Week 4, that'll be the one for Auburn to see how this all really adds up against a really, really good Oklahoma team. At number 3, I got the Texas Longhorns. So showing some dominance. That's what you expect in a rebound against San Jose State, 38-7. Defense was very stifling. They allowed just a single touchdown. Offense just methodically compounded the lead. Arch Manning and the ground game really took care of business in this one. And the Longhorns improved to 1-1. Arch Manning, 19 of 30, 295, 4 touchdowns. A little bit better. Boy, I watched some of the film, though. It looked like he was having some problems with his shoulder, maybe. Hard to really tell what was going on there. I'm not a breaking news channel. I'm really just running my numbers and looking at stats and models. So there are a lot of other people who follow, like, the player updates and the injuries. I kind of catch up with that stuff last minute, but it did look like on some of his throws, he was kind of like wincing and holding at his shoulder. So interested to see what happens with that. In week 3, Texas. Oh, they host UTEP. Not worried about that. Week 4, let's see. I think they get, oh no, Sam Houston. Okay. So they've got a couple of weeks that they can kind of work on some stuff at home here. Maybe, I don't know, if he is having some shoulder issues, he can, get a recovery. Maybe they can play some other quarterbacks and get him some rest. All right. At number 2, I like this. A lot of people out there are going to hate me for it because I am a Tennessee homer. I am an alum. But my model, and me, for that matter, now, granted, I would not personally be this high on Tennessee. I would have Tennessee as like a top 4 team. That's what I had them in week 1. But the model likes them as a top 2 team in the SEC. With a big win over East Tennessee. I mean, it was 72-17. Like, it was 48-7 at the half. I mean, they did whatever they want, and really, really, I mean, I say Tennessee's offense is balanced. I mean, they had 458 yards through the air. Joey Aguilar and the receivers were doing whatever they wanted. They had 2 receivers, Chris Brazel and Mike Matthews, both go over 100. Brazel with 2 touchdowns. Mike Matthews with a 53-yard long bomb touchdown. Star Thomas really vulturing most of the touchdowns from the running backs, 12 for 69 and 3. DeJuan Morris, 9 for 48 and a touchdown. Peyton Lewis, 8 for 19 and a touchdown. Merklinger and McIntyre got some reps at quarterback. Some really, really good run for those. Merklinger was able to complete 9 out of his 14 passes for 2 touchdowns. And McIntyre completed 6 of 7 of his. Merklinger even get a little bit of run, a couple scrambles for 2 carries for 17 yards. The defense holds East Tennessee State to 49 yards on the ground, but gave up a little bit through the air, 167. However, when you're totaling, was it like 730 yards? You could give up a couple hundred. Tennessee looks very, very good. They get Georgia at home. And if you're Tennessee, man, you've got a ton of confidence. Yes, they've got some injuries on the defensive side, but they're still just repping a lot of dudes. Excited to share what my model thinks. And if you follow me on Twitter, by the way, or X, at SEC Recap, I already put out my Georgia-Tennessee matchup predictor on my Twitter. So head on over there, check it out, give me a follow. Excited to preview that one later in the week. We are going to move on this week. My model has Ole Miss as the number 1 team in the SEC. Now, I'm not really on board with this. Like, I think talent-wise, I would totally understand still having, like, LSU, possibly even Georgia, Texas, kind of at the top 2 positions for power rankings, but again, this isn't just a poll. It's not a talent ranking. It's based on a lot of factors, and so my model through week 2 really likes what they saw from Ole Miss, even though it was kind of a muddy, hard-fought game on the road in Lexington. Um, but Austin Simmons, I think, he shakes off a couple of early interceptions. Uh, struggled to get going a little bit. He didn't have any touchdowns through the air, but he did get one on the ground. And that's really where I think Ole Miss shined was the ground game, but they were really, really balanced. 222 on the ground, 235 through the air. They held Kentucky to 172 on the ground, 187 through the air. So that helps them overcome that initial 10-0 deficit, finishing with 457 total yards of offense. The defense got 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. So that's still a really, really good disruptive defensive front. And that is something that my model always takes into account because that creates momentum swings. That's a big key aspect in the stats that my model looks at. So this one felt like survival mode early. Simmons looked a little bit rattled in the first quarter. I think the crowd was feeding off the Kentucky energy. Ty Bryant's interceptions had Ole Miss kind of on the ropes. But then the Rebels really lean on Lacey, 28 for 138 and a touchdown. Really, really excellent production there. Just kept hammering away until the Wildcats wore down. By the fourth quarter, Ole Miss had flipped the script. That defense came alive. Simmons made just enough throws to pull ahead. And for Lane Kiffin's crew, this is the kind of ugly road win you need to fight your way through because you're going to have to do that multiple times in an SEC schedule. You're just going to have to slug it out sometimes. All right. And they did it. Lane did it. That was the game that beat them last year. When they went on, when Kentucky came to Oxford and beat Ole Miss, that was the kind of game they lost. They went on the road this year and got it done. And that's what you want to see. So there you have it. There's the rankings as we head into week 3. Got some big time games coming up, y'all. Excited to preview them. Wisconsin coming to Alabama. Think it's bigger than most people think it could be. Georgia at Tennessee. It's going to be the afternoon game. We got Florida going to LSU. LSU currently a 6.5-point favorite. From what we saw at Florida, that one could run away from the Gators. We got Texas A&M going to Notre Dame. That'll be a top 20 matchup. And Vanderbilt going to South Carolina. So some really, really good games in week 3. Excited to preview those as we get later into this week. That's going to wrap up week 2. Ole Miss at the top spot. Tennessee and Texas right on the heels. Florida is reeling. Who's too high? Who's too low? Drop your top 5 power rankings in the comments. Maybe I'll feature them later in the week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this with your fellow SEC fans. And while you're checking us out, make sure you head on over to the Bonfire store. I don't get any money. I'm not sponsored. I just sell a few t-shirts. So check out our Saturdays collections and our SEC Pride collections at bonfire.com/store/SEC recap. Some really, really cool designs that just go to pay for server hosting and API calls and all the stuff I do to kind of keep these models updated. That's going to do it. We will be back for a full weekly review and updated matchup predictor.